Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard, and today I want to talk about your lymphatic system. I mean, 'tis the season, right, to talk about your lymph. It's the kapha season, it's the spring. The earth holds on to more water in the springtime. We go for a walk anywhere these days and you're going to get mud on your feet because that's what the earth does in the spring, is it holds on to more water. That water helps germinate seeds and things get to grow. So this is nature's new year. So it's a very rainy, muddy, allergy, congestive time of the year. Nature's antidote to that congestion is kind of the foods that are harvested in the early spring, which are leafy greens and sprouts and root vegetables and things that are very astringent and very bitter, that kind of scrub up and kind of emulsify or liquefy some of that mucus, right? So a lot of that heavy congestion can build up in your lymphatic system. And your lymphatic system is the critical system in your body. It's the one that in Western medicine we talk the least about, but it's the most important. It's the largest system of your body. It's the one that's hard to measure. So I shouldn't say not that much research has been done. There's volumes of research done on the lymphatic system, but very little of it has actually reached medical practice, which is sort of interesting because they haven't been able to figure out how to sort of access it, implement it, or manipulate it the way they would like, or even understand it in the way that really makes complete sense, because it has so many functions for our body. It's the largest circulatory system of the body. It delivers fats properly. Broken down fats as baseline energy to every cell of your body. So if you have chronic fatigue, tired, lethargy, melancholy even, you're not delivering those fats for baseline energy, and that can be a culprit for why you feel so tired. The lymphatic system is also the garbage can. Any undigested proteins or fats, environmental pollutants, toxins, mercury from the environment, from the coal mine plumes, undigested wheat, dairy, nuts, seeds, grains, legumes that we can't digest anymore. If you don't digest well, those undigested foods will go into your gut and they'll be too big to get into your blood, according to the studies, and they'll find their way into your gut-associated lymphatic tissue. The lion's share of the lymph in your body is around your belly, which is why we have a lot of extra weight around the belly. For women, a lot of times it's in the hips and the weight, because the lymph's trying to get from your hips back through the belly, back to the heart. But if there's a big logjam around your belly because the gut-associated lymph tissue, or what's called the mesenteric tissue is congested, well, there's no place for it to go, so it ends up storing as reserve fuel, by the way, in your hips and legs and or around your belly. And that's what happens. And that extra kind of stored lymph, stored fat as potential fuel down the road has been linked to the aging process according to certain studies. So it's very important. And it's also that lymph around your belly has been deemed the 79th organ of the body. For years they used to say the lymph, the mesentery, all that stuff around your intestinal tract is just holding it in place, just keeping it from moving around too much. Well, now we know it's like the lion's share of the lymphatic system, of the immune system, in your whole body, right? So the lion's share of your immune system lives in the lymph around your belly, and why that is such a critical relationship between the skin on the inside of your intestinal tract and the lymph on the outside of your intestinal tract. That relationship is intimate, and in fact so important that you have it everywhere in your body. The skin on your hand, on your whole body. On the other side of that is the skin-associated lymphatic tissue, which supports an immune response. You get bit by a mosquito, like who knows what kind of bug is on the needle of that mosquito, but you get a little red mark. That's because your immune system took care of business. We have newly discovered lymphs in the brain that Ayurveda talked about and gave therapies for thousands of years ago. That dumps about 3 pounds of plaque and garbage out of your head every year while you sleep. So when the brain lymphs can't drain, you don't sleep well, and when you don't sleep well, you don't drain well. But also the brain lymphs have now, according to the science, which again is still buried in the medical journals, is linked to anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, inflammation, infection, and even autoimmune concerns. Yes, there is mechanisms understood for autoimmunity, because when the master computer can't get its trash out, doesn't know what to do, right? So those are really important factors. So the lymph is also carrying your entire immune system. That's where your immune system lives. So if your lymph system is stuck in traffic, then you get all the lymph concerns, extra weight around your belly, swelling, tenderness, holding on to water, rings getting tight, rashes to your skin, brain fog, sleepiness, allergies, hypersensitivity issues. So many of the chronic issues we experience are drain lymph congestive issues, which is why in Ayurveda, the lymph was the very first tissue or system we treated, because it was the drains in the body. And if you didn't get good drainage, right, from anything, it's not going to function well. So before you would treat the blood, the lymph was evaluated. But the blood was really easy to evaluate. You just go in there and pull some blood from the arteries, and you can then, or the veins, and you can evaluate the blood and you can analyze it, and it's brilliant information for sure. But the lymph is also an important factor to evaluate. They haven't been able to develop a lymph test they pull lymph and measure it, look at it quite yet. So that might be the reason why we just don't see a lot of it in practice in Western medicine unless you get diagnosed with a cancer, and then there's lymph nodes involvement and all of that. Breathing is one of the most important factors for your lymphatic system. I've talked a lot about that. Just go to LifeSpa.com and type in breathing or pranayama, and all my articles will come up about the research on breathing. And the diaphragm, the number one breathing muscle, is the number one lymphatic pumper for your entire body. The number one pump of the lymph around your belly, linked to extra belly weight and cellulite and those kinds of things that no one really likes, is the diaphragm. That's who pumps it. So if your diaphragm is not breathing and moving the way it should, and half the elite athletes in one study did not have a diaphragm, it was working completely, relaxing and contracting the way it should. So chances are the best athletes don't have that. You and I probably don't either. So probably a good idea for us to do some diaphragmatic work, some breathing exercises. So go to my website at lifespa.com and type in "strengthen your lungs now." And there's a breathing technique there called pratiloma, which is an inspiratory breathing exercise technique. Strengthens the muscles of breathing. You just have to make sure, because of all the sitting we do, we have to antidote that with proper breathing techniques, because it's the number one mover of your lymph. In one study with women with breast cancer, the vast majority of them had congestion of the anterior diaphragmatic lymph nodes. So it's also the major lymph pump for your breast tissue as well. Get the drains working, because we can't get the trash out, toxins, things to build up, and they do cause oxidative damage and problems in the body, right? So we don't want that. So that's how you do it, really simply. Now we also have at lifespa.com, in our store, we have a whole lymph kit that you can get and can read about and do that, and it's on sale right now as we speak. One of those herbs is called mangista, which is like the classic red root to support healthy lymphatic flow. Anything red, there's an Ayurvedic herb called red root, and there's a Western herb called red root, and that's in our formula called the Lymph Cleanse, which is a liquid formula to support healthy lymphatic flow. I think of the Lymph Cleanse, or the red root, from the Western perspective to be sort of more for the lymph nodes, to decongest the lymph nodes, which gets congested and swollen, right? And the mangista is more for the lymph vessels, to make sure that they flow in a destagnated way. There's another herb called Brahmi Brain, which is Centella asiatica, or Goticola. It's been shown to support healthy microcirculation for the whole body, but also specifically for the lymphatic system and the brain lymphatics that drain 3 pounds of plaque out of your head every year while you sleep. Such a cool herb. Take before you go to bed. While the brain is draining, you get a little extra lymphatic support there as well. Another one is called Lymph Vein HP. This is all in our lymph kit, which is basically the white pith from the oranges. And it has 2 chemicals in it, diosmin and hesperidin, which has been patented for microcirculation vascular concerns. I mean, the research on this patented formula is so overwhelming, and it's been shown for hemorrhoids and for inflammation and circulatory issues. But it's also the microcirculation of the lymph. Think of the lymph is all the fluid between your cells. The lymph is the cerebral spinal fluid washing your brain and getting the brain lymphatics to drain. So that microcirculation is the most critical part of our circulatory system. And that's what gives you radiant skin and glowing complexion and all that kind of stuff. Is really the ability and the efficiency of micro circulation. So that's called Lymphane HP. That's the one for microcirculation. Also neem. You know, your lymph system is all based on skin, your barriers, your lungs, your skin on the outside, your gut, intestinal skin, and your blood-brain barrier are all skin, epithelium-based. And whenever you have skin or epithelium, you have bugs, microbes, and you also have a lymphatic army on the other side, protecting any infiltrators to move through that skin. That's how it works. So the neem, my favorite herb, because it actually supports healthy microbial function. It's one of the few herbs that actually knock out biofilm, these like tartar in your teeth kind of things, where these bacteria build up in your body, and they're linked to all types of degenerative processes. And neem breaks up biofilm, but also is the queen of the skin, they call it in Ayurveda, supports healthy skin function. So you want to keep that barrier really strong, because anything that breaks through that barrier gets into, guess what? Your lymphatic system. And all the lymphs, whether you're talking brain lymph, or skin-associated lymph, or gut-associated lymph, or the lymph around your respiratory tract, called respiratory-associated lymph tissue, they're all connected. So when one becomes congested, they all do. But the upstream first domino, all those lymph concerns, is your digestion. And that's why I'm such a stickler for digestive support, making sure you understand that you can't just stop eating X, Y, or Z and solve your problem. Yeah, if you don't feel good eating wheat or dairy or whatever, don't eat it for a while. But don't you want to know why? And if you can't digest the wheat or the legumes or the nuts or the lectins or whatever it is that you're having a hard time with, or greasy fried food even as a challenge food, then how are you going to break down the mercury from the coal mine plumes that filter on every organic vegetable, or the 90 million tons of toxic environmental pollutants dumped in our atmosphere every year? I mean, you have to be able to digest / detoxify well. And the pathways of digestion and detox are the same. So you need to have those guys strong. I have a free ebook, lots of free articles on digestion as well. But I have a free ebook, the Digestive Troubleshooting ebook. Read through it, troubleshoot your digestion, so you know what to do to support the weak link in your digestive system, because that's the upstream support of your whole lymphatic system. We have a whole free ebook on the lymph called The Miracle of Lymph as well. If you're a lymph nut like me, and I love the whole understanding of the lymphatic system, download that ebook. There's over 100 scientific references in that ebook to support what's in the journals that Ayurvedic medicine sort of seem to know about how important it is to use the lymph knowledge in practice. But that information hasn't really reached medical practice quite yet. All right, guys, that's it on the lymph. Check out our lymph kits on sale right now at LifeSpa.com. All right, thanks for listening. Talk to you all soon.